Bishop John Joseph was considered by our people as their savior.
The people weren't fearless to follow him.
This image of the Good Shepherd laying down his life for his sheep was something very dear to Bishop John.
In his frame of mind, the time had come for sacrifices.
On May 6, 1998, Bishop John Joseph, a human rights campaigner and the most respected leader of the Christian community in Pakistan, shot himself dead in protest against laws which discriminate, especially the blasphemy laws. This extraordinary form of civil protest shocked and moved the people the world over, and of course in his native land, Pakistan. The Christians in Pakistan came out on the streets protesting, and the human rights movement in the country gained considerable momentum. Bishop John Joseph became overnight an icon of sacrifice and struggle against the laws based on religious apartheid. Bishop John Joseph, in addition to his multifaceted distinctions, was the first ever Punjabi bishop. His life sketch provides insights into some difficult questions and issues regarding the rights of religious minorities and the state of religious tolerance in Pakistan. "52 kilometres from the industrial city of Faisalabad, Khushpur is one of the oldest and most prominent Christian settlements in the Punjab province. This century-old village stands out among schools of surrounding villages. Its water supply ensures clean drinking water for every home. Its educational institutions attract students even from distant areas. Khushpur is also distinguished with providing religious and political leadership to the Christians of Pakistan. In this illustrious inventory, the most outstanding name was that of the Bishop John Joseph.
He was registered at school as John Budamal, born 15th of November 1932, son of Budamal Joseph, religion Christianity, occupation farming, and resident of village 51 GB. We were 10 brothers and sisters. Bishop John Joseph was 5th. My name is Sister Cecilia. I am the eldest. During his school days, students and teachers named him Brainy John. He was very intelligent, and teachers complained many times that John was confronting them with too many questions. He was naughty, as most children are. He played with us. He played with a ball. He used to teach us drill, and he asked us to do things. He also played cards with me. He was very interested in athletics. Once he came back for Christmas. The Christmas tournament was about to start. He disembarked from a tonga, asked the coachman to take his trunk home, and joined the games. He won 8 first prizes in that tournament.
John Joseph belonged to a family well known for its affiliation with church and education. His intelligence, his sense of humour, and his outstanding performance in different sports made him stand out amongst his peers. At Government College Faisalabad, he developed a keen interest in culture and literature.
Morning Mass in Kushpur starts at 5. When John was young, he would be the first to reach Mass, going directly to the sacristy so that he did not miss his favourite role as an altar boy.
Christ the King Seminary. Bishop John Joseph was trained to be a priest at Christ the King Seminary, where he also taught as a professor for 10 years later on.
I joined the seminary in 59, and that was the last year of him in the seminary. He was ordained a priest in 1960. So I spent a full year with him, and I could see already then that he had a great bend towards scholarship.
During his stay at the seminary, John Joseph distinguished himself as a very talented person. He was a student of theology and also the moving soul of literary gatherings and poetic recitals.
I was really impressed by him as a very active person, active intellectually as well as physically. He would very easily join us for sports, especially for volleyball, and being a man of good physique, he was a good player. But intellectually also he was very alert. His field was, he was teaching us theology, but he was very well versed in Urdu literature.
या कोई शय करूं अता मैं कौन सा तोहफा या कोई शय करूं अता जबकि नहीं कुछ लायक तेरे आए मेरे खुदा जबकि नहीं कुछ लायक तेरे आए मेरे खुदा.
He was the first Punjabi priest after many years, after a gap of perhaps 30 years. There was a Punjabi priest very much earlier who went and served in India. So he was very conscious of this fact. So he upheld the highest values of the priesthood and at the same time of his own Punjabi culture. And he wanted that the new church in Pakistan, which was an outcome of Vatican II, which ended in 1963, the new church in Pakistan should be a well-inculturated church.
In order to harmonise the Pakistani church with local culture, John Joseph took keen interest in the translation of the Bible and Psalms into local languages. He himself translated the Roman Missal and wrote a number of hymns, which became very popular. His nomination as a bishop was an honour not only for Kushpur, but also for the whole of Punjab.
खुशपर बितरती चमका मारे जम भिजे चमते तारे तेरे सर नू ऊंचा कीता तेरे सर नू ऊंचा कीता वेख बिशप जान तेरी उच्ची शान खुशबू तेरा बिशप जान.
John Joseph, the first ever Punjabi bishop, soon came to be known as the People's Bishop. He worked day and night to solve the problems of his community. Alongside his spiritual responsibilities, he paid full attention to the social teachings of the Church about the transformation of society.
All non-Muslims are disadvantaged by the simple fact that they are not in the mainstream of electoral politics. We have a separate electorate system, as you know. And if you look at the Christian community, most of them live below poverty line. I mean, that by itself is discriminatory. I mean, it's not taken for granted in Pakistan that anybody who sweeps the floor has to be a Christian. I mean, it's as though they were born to take up this occupation. I think it's most gruesome form of humiliation.
Article 2 says that Islam shall be the state religion. Now religion, living persons can have the religion, man can have the religion, but a state which is not a living person, if you give a religion to the state, then those believers who do not believe in that state religion continuously live in perpetual fear.
First speech of our founder of the country, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, in the assembly when Pakistan was created, and where our founder said, you be free to go to your temples, you be free to go to your churches, you be free to go to your mosques. Religion does not come in the role of being a Pakistani.
He believed in leading from the front. So if there was any demonstration, any civil rights protest, he would be right in front. He didn't believe in just letter writing. He believed in actions as well as studying and doing research and other things. But actions were very important for him. He was an activist, definitely an activist bishop who understood the social teachings and acted on them.
Christians being in the minority, we psychologically at once feel that the oppressor is the majority. So we felt very strongly that we are the ones oppressed. But the fact remains that the oppressed are the poor of whatever religion. I personally felt this very strongly when I was in Sindh. Here in Punjab, Bishop John, and I would say Bishop John was really representing the Catholic Church because he was officially the chairman of our Justice and Peace Commission. He was not acting alone. He was also expressing this concern of the Church for the dispossessed, for the marginalized.
There is a parable of the deaf and the dumb, where Christ comes down the mountain and he sees that a man is arguing with his disciples. And
Christ calls out and says, "Why are you arguing with my disciples?" And this man says, "Because I brought my son who was deaf and dumb to your disciples, but they couldn't heal him." And then Christ heals the man. And Christ said to his disciples, "How long will such a situation continue, when people will come to you and you will not be able to rescue them?" And Bishop John Joseph, in various ways, he was a theologian, let's never forget that. He was basically an intellectual, a man who had his highest qualification in theology, always interpreted this incidents by saying that the church of today sometimes is like the disciples. They see that the society has become deaf and dumb. They have been taken over by forces of exploitation and they cannot speak. But we who belong, who are the people of faith, are not able to release the society of the evil forces.
The bishop's empathy with the oppressed far surpassed his official or traditional responsibilities as a bishop.
Bishop John Joseph remained associated with this institution for a long time. He was also my personal friend. He was the real friend of the blind. He went to Rawalpindi once. On his return, he reported that drought was ruining the crops. "Let's pray together in your hall." We all gathered. He prayed in his own way, and we prayed in our Islamic way. God listened to our prayers, and it rained that night.
An expression of the bishop's love for the oppressed was his dedication to the Centre for the Blind and Leprosy Centre in Faisalabad.
John Joseph supported us more than our parents. He was very considerate. His visits made us happy. We felt as if one of our near and dear relatives had arrived. On the Shekhupura Faisalabad road, some houses of people were bulldozed in village Kadlati. As soon as the bishop got the news, he rang us. I was in Gujranwala, and I arrived from there, and the bishop himself arrived from Faisalabad. It was midnight. The bishop was wearing his black cassock when he met everyone affected by this evacuation. When he learnt that a woman had given birth to a child immediately after the evacuation, he looked to the sky and cried.
The bishop witnessed at a close quarter the ever-growing religious fanaticism, and he realised that the state was accommodating religious extremists. Laws which discriminate were introduced by the Zia regime, had turned religious minorities into social outcasts. John Joseph knew that the minorities would have to strive hard to claim their rights, and the church could not remain a silent spectator.
At the time of the move to introduce a religious column in the identity card was being maneuvered by a certain Islamic lobby that had the ear of Zia, then it was really Bishop John who got the whole Pakistani church galvanized to form a movement. And that was the first time you could say that the Pakistani church came alive.
I won't say that this was just the first time when the church was involved. In fact, this has proved many firsts. The first it proved was the fact that a timely action against a discriminatory act of the government can bring about stoppage of that law being made into law. The other first that the national identity card issue brought about was that it brought about a unification of all the church denominations in Pakistan. the Catholic Church, the Church of Pakistan, which constitutes 4 other denominations, the Salvation Army, the Full Gospel Assemblies, the Presbyterian Church, all the churches got together and raised a strong voice against the inclusion of this issue. And Bishop John Joseph was in the forefront of this struggle. And in fact, he went to the extent that he sat on hunger strike unto death.
For us living in Pakistan, in an Islamic republic, with Muslims right from the beginning, Islam has a very deep significance and importance. And when the official church produced and promoted certain documents stressing the values to be found in other religions and that we must reach out and not remain closed within ourselves, we in Pakistan, Christians in Pakistan, we took a far greater interest in Islam, the positive values in Islam, our closer relationship to Islam, and even when I was studying in the seminary, we used to also get lectures in Islam. We were made to study Islam, and when Bishop John was there, we invited many Islamic scholars to come and speak to us.
The Muslim-Christian Relations Commission was founded by him. He supported many Muslim widows. I have seen with my own eyes the grand mosque he built in Kushpur, just as he constructed churches.
Interfaith harmony was a cherished dream of Bishop John Joseph.
Isa Nagri is a Christian village in sub-district Sumandri. There are many Muslim villages around it. The nearest is Badawal. There are no Christian families living there. The girls of that village used to study at Isa Nagri. The village is 5 kilometers from Isa Nagri. Residents of that village requested Bishop John Joseph to build a bridge so that the distance between the 2 villages was shortened. After the bridge was constructed, it enabled about 100 Muslim girls to commute to Isa Nagri for education.
The Bishop's House of Faisalabad became the nerve centre of a social and spiritual movement drawing people from every class, caste and creed.
I asked him once, "Brother, you used to visit us at Christmas occasionally, but it has been a long time since you came." He said, "Please do not be angry. I get so much love from people that I sometimes forget that I belong to Kushpur, or even that I am your relative."
The state of human rights in general, and interfaith harmony in particular, were crumbling day by day. Discriminatory laws and states' apathy had given a free hand to fundamentalist elements. Intolerance and violence stalked the streets.
I feel in the last few years there has been an increasing, there's been a general increase in intolerance in Pakistan. I'm not talking only about the Christian community, between different Muslim sects also. That is one, and I see that there has been increasing violence due to various factors. Difficult to analyze it all now. Different political groups, different religious groups, different sects also within Islam, Muslim sects. A lot of intolerance, a lot of violence.
I think the problems really occur when these Islamic groups become in competition with one another for who's going to be the most Islamic, which always translates into who's going to be the most rigid, the most ferocious, the most unbending. And for some reason, Islam, which has many different faces and many different expressions, when these groups tend to then take the most rigid and the most sort of narrow view of Islam possible and then compete with one another.
In this already tense situation, the government moved to add more clauses to Section 295 Pakistan Penal Code, commonly known as the blasphemy laws. The legal change made matters worse by prescribing mandatory capital punishment for a person thought to have committed blasphemy.
As far as the blasphemy law itself was concerned, especially section 295C of the Pakistan Penal Code, we were against this right from the beginning. And we had held a number of seminars and very logical reasons as to why this law is not only redundant but also un-Islamic. Because, and we had eminent Muslim scholars come and address our seminars who also said the same thing. So therefore we were raising a voice against this law right from the beginning. And Bishop John Joseph was again in the forefront of this move against this law, and our demand was for a total repeal of this law. This fact was proved, what we were contemplating was proved by the fact that this law started getting grossly misused, and misused mostly against the Christian community.
Bishop John felt that he had to stand up against such high-handedness, I call it high-handedness, of people who put the cases, because till today no blasphemy case has been proven to be a genuine case. When it came up before the High Court has always set it aside as totally baseless.
In case of Manzoor Masih, why this matter became of utmost importance was because a young 9-10-year-old boy was accused of having done something which was beyond his capability to do. That was to write blasphemous words on the wall of a church, of a mosque. That boy does not know to write. He has never seen the inside of a school. This further hit the headlines in April of 1994 when, while under trial, one day after the hearing, Manzoor Masih, on his way back to where we had kept him, tried to keep him secure because they were under constant threat from the extremists that they will eliminate them. They will not wait for the court's verdict, but they would eliminate them. In broad daylight, Manzoor Masih was murdered. Salamat was injured, though he suffered minor injuries. Being a young boy, he was quick to jump over cars, get under cars and save himself. Rahmat was quite seriously injured. The Catholic Bishops' Conference was going on at that time in Multan. And moment he was informed, I informed him in fact, moment I informed him, he left the conference and he flew into Lahore, and he was in Lahore the same afternoon. And then we worked out a strategy of protesting against this law. 2 days later, that's on 7th of April, I believe, we had Manzoor Masih's funeral. It took place in the largest church, the Sacred Heart Cathedral on Lawrence Road, from where we took his body to the Catholic cemetery on Jail Road, where he was buried. During the funeral service, Bishop John came down from the altar to the body of Manzoor Masih, kissed his feet, and said words to this effect, that Manzoor, I swear upon your blood that I will not allow the blood of anyone else in this country to be shed because of this law. I will offer myself as a sacrifice before that happens.
Bishop John Joseph was considered by our people as their savior. That one who would liberate them from the oppressive laws that he was fighting against. And it is remarkable that whenever he took any action together with the public against these laws, he first always prayed with them. And then only he said, now we will walk in procession, but peaceful procession in protest.
No doubt, as Christ said, I am the good shepherd, and I lay down my life for my sheep. I think this image of the good shepherd laying down his life for his sheep was something very dear to Bishop John.
In 1995, Mansoor Marsi, under trial in a blasphemy case, was murdered outside Lahore High Court. Many innocent Christians became victims of personal vendetta under the cover of blasphemy laws. Justice Arif Iqbal, a Muslim judge who acquitted Christians accused, himself was killed in 1997. The horrors of the blasphemy laws were there for everyone to see.
There has to be the limit of human tolerance. When he found that Ayub Masih was sentenced to death, apart from the fact that his lordship wanted to contact the people, wanted to contact the lawyers to make the arrangement for the appeal to be prosecuted.
Then the bishop rang his mother and asked her to come over. She arrived at 10 in the morning. Her younger son Baber was accompanying her. The bishop met them and consoled the family by saying, Ayub is not only your son, I consider him my son as well.
With hindsight now, I strongly feel that in his frame of mind, the time had come for sacrifices. And this frame of mind of his goes back to about February of last year. That means 1998. Because when he led a rally in Vienna, in fact, there, he sent me a report of that rally. There, he had also said that if the government does not withdraw the blasphemy law, if they do not repeal the blasphemy law, we will do a form of protest in which it will shock the world.
He was very emotional about it and very desperate. I met him only a few days before he committed suicide, and he came to our office with a few of his friends, and there were some people from the Human Rights Commission in that meeting. He expressed his complete helplessness and desperateness at the fact that he was not being able to get enough legal assistance and not enough people were willing to help.
In Rome, there was a number of conferences going on of various bishops. One of the conferences was of the Federal Asian Bishops' Conference, which he was to address on these issues of religious intolerance in Pakistan. And on around the 29th of April, a couple of days after death sentence was announced on Ayub Masih, he decided not to go to Rome. For almost 2 weeks, the bishop was fasting and praying while awaiting the decision of the court in Ayub Masih case.
I went to see him. I was sitting with him. At times he got very serious while talking. He had 7 files on his desk and I inquired about them in detail. We remained together for 3.5 hours. We talked about family affairs. I thought he was spending an unusual amount of time with me because he was leaving to go abroad.
It was on May 4th that we met last, and I was asked to go to Multan with another colleague to file an appeal of review of judgment in the High Court of Lahore Multan bench. And to me his last words were, please give me the information as soon as possible. As soon as the appeal is filed, just inform me by telephone or fax, whatever.
He called me on the telephone and said, here is the write-up, please put it on computer and bring the printout back to me today. You must do it before you leave for home because the Muharram holidays are about to begin. And this write-up is to be distributed at Sahiwal.
I got a call from him on the 6th at about 2:45 in the afternoon. And I said, Bishop, where are you? He said, I've just driven out of Faisalabad. I'm speaking from my car. He was on his mobile phone. He spoke to me for about 5 to 7 minutes. And during that conversation, again, Subsequently, I could gather when the whole thing had happened, that he was making sure that I was not leaving for Sahiwal also. The last part of his conversation now makes a lot of sense to me. He says, Shahid Sahib, you have to take care of everything now. I said, Bishop, don't worry. Whatever time you get back, give me a call. I'll have some good news for you. I didn't know he would not be getting back.
Bishop John Joseph went to Sahiwal to pray for Ayub Masih, where he had been imprisoned and was sentenced to death. It was here that Ayub escaped an attempt on his life in the corridors of court.
The Mass was to begin at 6. When the bishop arrived, he said, "Let's go for prayers." He gave a very short message that day. He emphasized sacrifice in that message. He did not eat much food. He ate some soup and perhaps some fruit. The sisters asked him, "Bishop, you have not had enough food." He said, "I am not supposed to have anything in Sahiwal at all." I was at the wheel. Father was in the other seat. Bishop John Joseph asked him to come with him and take him to the place where Ayub Masih was fired upon on the 6th of November. Father Yaqub and the bishop both went to the gate of the session court. We were standing. I was busy cleaning the side windows of the car. The bishop asked the priest to get into the car. The priest went towards the rear seat. I was already cleaning the windscreen. As soon as Father opened the door of the car, we heard gunfire. When I turned to see, I saw the bishop falling down. His pistol was lying down near his feet. Blood was gushing out like a fountain. I could not understand whether he was bleeding from the head or the neck.
The news of Bishop John Joseph's death spread like wildfire. The Christian locality, shocked and deprived, beating their chests in sheer grief, and in their multitudes poured into Kushpur from Samanduri, Faisalabad and other cities.
Christians were not allowing anyone to come close to his body. They did not even allow the administration, deputy commissioner and superintendent of police to get close to him. They were shouting slogans. When the bishop's body was carried away, people started wailing. I saw some people beating their chests and some were screaming. They included women and children. Then we all carried the bishop's body and put it in the ambulance.
While the Christians were mourning the death of their beloved guide and leader, ministers, religious and political leaders were trying to diffuse the impact of this great sacrifice through misinformation and provocative statements. Ironically, a protester at the bishop's funeral, Ranja Masih, was booked under the blasphemy charges.
There was complete turmoil. The whole village had gathered. Many people arrived with the bishop's body. When the grave had been prepared, some people said they wanted to bury him in Faisalabad. After much ado, it was decided that since he was a bishop, he ought to be buried in the cathedral of Faisalabad.
Over 500 Christian women was there on the footpath, not on the main road, but on the footpath, and they were sitting there. When this police attack came, they couldn't run. And so they were severely beaten up by the police, and with the tear gas, I saw at one side women were really congested, like you see in football matches when there's crushed. That sort of, they were crushed on one side, police were beating them, there were some youth who were trying to save them.
I went to the procession downtown, the famous procession where 600 people were arrested. Real, tangible feeling of a loss, of, this was our bishop, this was really our bishop, and, he really cared about us, and he would be right there on the front line with us.
I believe he sacrificed himself following the steps of Jesus Christ. The invitation card of his ordination on January the 18th, 1960 reads, "God, make me a shepherd who is ready to lay down his life for his flock." It seems that he had been preparing for this sacrifice ever since he became a priest.
I do not think it was only an act of frustration. It was an act of conviction that since he was facing a lot of opposition from those in authority, in trying to convince them, he was prepared to sacrifice his life, hoping that this would bring some good.
This act of his, of sacrifice, was very much rooted in his faith, I think. That to liberate someone, to free somebody from captivity or bondage, a cost has to be given.
There is not even a shadow of doubt that this was a very planned, deliberate on his part to offer himself as a sacrifice for the millions of other Pakistanis to be set free from discriminatory laws.
Instead of getting a jolt, there were all kinds of allegations and accusations, even to the extent that government ministers saying that he was killed for some money matters. So, we have really degenerated as society, which does not demand such sacrifice at all.
What happened to the cause that Bishop John Joseph laid down his life for? Did his sacrifice strengthen the forces of religious tolerance, peace and justice? Did it convince the rulers in Pakistan to remove Damocles' sword hanging over the heads of minorities, which have already been marginalised?
3 immediate changes took place after his sacrifice. The first change was all minorities in Pakistan immediately united on one platform. The Hindus, the Sikhs, they all joined us. The second immediate change was that a lot of Muslims who themselves were against these laws but were quiet because of fear of extremists, immediately their pens started speaking. And a host of articles immediately started appearing in the national press, both in Urdu and English, against the blasphemy law and other discriminatory laws. And the third was that the government was shaken up.
There is tremendous respect for Bishop John Joseph. You find the image and the picture of Bishop John Joseph in many homes, and people do agree that this movement for which he sacrificed his life needs to go on.
Bishop John Joseph is a tremendous figure. It's unfortunate that we write a lot, or we write some things. We don't even write a lot, but then we write in Urdu or we speak Punjabi, so it does not reach the universal church. The fact that he could lead from the front, that he was not afraid, that he was able to take decisions, he could hand over powers. So I think there are a lot of things that Bishop John Joseph did which would be a reference point for the universal church, for the Church of Asia.